hello, and welcome. Welcome to this very special chronicle we have of Mummy the Curse 2nd edition, titled Oceans of Eternity. I will be your game master. My name is Trevor, and this, as I mentioned, is going to be a game of Mummy the Curse 2nd edition. Just a little bit about myself. I've been doing tabletop for about 10 years now, and maybe about 8 of that with Onyx Path games. Most within Chronicles of Darkness. Aside from myself, I am joined with some very special friends of mine. I'll let you guys take it away, whoever wants to introduce themselves first.
Hi, I'm Grog. Not much to say about me. I've been playing role-playing games since high school. Decent amount of them. Onyx Path stuff, mainly Chronicles of Darkness there. But I generally play almost anything under the sun. Nothing really to say about me other than, I'm me. Somebody else go.
Someone commented on the title.
Yeah, something about the title is we tried to change it, but we can't change it, and we spent like maybe 5 minutes trying to fix it, but no idea how to fix that. Sorry about that. Hope you're not disappointed. Would somebody else like to go? Maybe is it my friend Xavier down below?
No. I'm Xavier. I guess I started playing tabletops in college. I kind of play whatever. Yeah.
Keeping it short.
Short and sweet.
But last but not least, Charlie, would you tell the audience about yourself?
Hey, I'm Charlie. I've been playing tabletop for about 5 years. Started with, Dungeons and Dragons, and then kind of branched off into other stuff like Call of Cthulhu, which is actually how I met these guys. And this is actually my first Chronicles of Darkness. I've played some World of Darkness campaigns before, so yeah, I'm excited to get started today.
All right. Well, on that note, let's get started. So for those of you, I guess, unaware or unfamiliar with Mummy, it is a storytelling game of timeless souls set within the Chronicles of Darkness. It's a world much like our own, but full of supernatural horrors. Specifically, in Mummy, you play as a former citizen of the Nameless Empire, a sort of precursor civilization centered around what is now Egypt. The sorcerer priests of that civilization granted to you immortality, but at a cost. You awaken from your deathly slumber, brimming with power, but devoid of memory. Every time you awake is a race to discover who you were and who you've become before the underworld claims you once more. In this game, Oceans of Eternity, we will all be playing as a Maret, a group of mummies, carrying out the wishes of the dread judges of Tuat, racing against the competition to reclaim relics and battling ancient enemies. Mummy is a game about empires, how they're built, how they fall, how we reinforce them, and how we break free. But it's also a game about individuals, who you are and who you perceive yourself to be. It's what happens when you learn things about yourself that contradict the narrative you've so carefully pieced together. And it's also a game about power, the consequences of wielding it, the things for which we trade it away, and what it feels like when it wanes. So, with that, we are constructing a trio of mummies today, and going through character creation. Our first step on the rung here, as we return from death once again, is to form a concept, sort of a short description, a sentence, or a phrase that best describes sort of the spark of inspiration behind the character. Whoever wants to start off first, what sort of concept do you guys have in mind for your mummies?
I think I'll go first. Yeah, so the basic idea that I got with my character is an enlightened judge. They're probably part of, like, the Scribes Guild, the Hebeseshu, I think it is. That's the Scribes. Yeah, they're like, they're very into, like, law and order and making decisions and, like, using, like, authority and using that authority. And they consider themselves like somebody that knows these systems well and knows them better than anybody else in the world. So that's kind of like the rough idea that I'm going for.
Nice. What about the rest of you guys? What sort of concepts have you got cooked up for us today?
I'm going to be playing a mummy that is very much about the old religions and trying to reestablish them and figure out what is going on with these heretical religions of the modern day.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Catholicism.
a zealot of the old faith, I dig it.
Just a bunch of upstarts that will crumble away in time.
Yeah. Gotta go back to tradition. But anyway, Prez.
Y'all need a czar.
What have you got for us today?
I guess to sum up my character's concept, I call him a pragmatic spy. He is, he kind of does, I kind of picture him as doing the dirty work for the judges of Duat. He does the underhanded things like sabotage, espionage, and even assassination. He doesn't really get himself too concerned with the hows and whys and the philosophy behind things. He kind of just likes to get a task and then likes to carry it out the best way he can. He's very driven to accomplish his goals, and he tends to be pretty effective at it.
A very good quality for a mummy, given your missions on high, as they were from your judges. You'll fit right in. So moving along from concept, the next sort of phase here is aspirations. So these are kind of goals and objectives, either for your Arisen themselves, or for you as a player. They are statements of things that you are interested in seeing happen, or that you intend to actively pursue during the course of this coming story. They're also kind of a communication to me as things that you'd like to see happen, and by working towards or fulfilling these aspirations, you'll gain beats, a measurement of the experience that you've gained along the way. And something to keep in mind, these aspirations can also be something negative, something you wouldn't traditionally consider to be aspirational. You might have an aspiration of be defeated by my nemesis or fall victim to my own shortcomings. So, getting back to the topic of aspirations here, what are some aspirations that you guys have, either for your characters or for yourselves as a player?
All right, I've been thinking about this one, and I got a couple in my head. So my first one is I want to sit in judgment of somebody, like pretty much as a judge, and I want to have to judge them. that's something that my character probably did a lot in their mortal life, but they can't really remember that. So yeah. The second one is I want to find something from a previous descent. I want to something of mine from something of mine from a previous descent. Yeah. My character's interested in what they've done before, even if they can't remember it. And I guess the third one I've got in my head is I want to rebuild my cult. Something we kind of talked about before was session 0 is that our cults are no longer around. So rebuilding that would probably be something a mummy would want to do. So yeah. So sit in judgment of somebody, find something of mine in it from a previous descent, and rebuild my cult.
Awesome. Sounds great. Xavier or Prez, you want to jump in next?
Yeah, I can go next. These people need to learn about the Old Faith, so I'd like to start to reintroduce the Old Faith back into the modern world. And while I'm at it, I wanna dabble in. I want to learn what has succeeded the Old Faith. What is this religion that is so popular in the modern day? And then maybe in what I learned through that religion, maybe I start to question my own dedications to the Old Faith. Maybe it's time to maybe they make some good points. Maybe I can add my own improvements to what was the Old Faith.
All right, excellent. I dig it. Prez, what have you got for us today?
Well, one thing I definitely wanted for my character to deal with is to have a rival, Arisen, rival mummy. I would like for my character to be able to perhaps battle physically, but also, deal with him or her in a sense of kind of fighting for influence almost. So I kind of want my character is the kind of person that won't back down from a fight unless absolutely necessary. So I figure a rival would be a good way to test his resolve. And another aspiration I want for my characters, he's been very dogged and pragmatic. He tends to follow the orders, but I kind of wonder. I want to see what happens when he develops some kind of, I suppose, relationship, whether that's a friendship or anything else, with another person in the game, and then see what happens when that person is kind of the target of what his judges wanted, usually because he's, does very underhanded things. That's never a good thing. So I kind of want to see, I want his character to experience that conflicted feeling of, should I follow the judge's orders like I always do, or should I go against that like my gut's telling me to?
Awesome. All right. So that kind of wraps up that little section there. Kind of our core character concepts and some motivations to drive them forward. Let's get into the nitty-gritty, as it were. Step 2 of character creation is attributes. And these are sort of a measure of your inherent capabilities and natural aptitudes. They're broken down into 3 categories: mental, physical, and social. The mental attributes are intelligence, wits, and resolve. The physical attributes are strength, dexterity, and stamina. And the social attributes are presence, manipulation, and composure. So you begin with 1 free dot in each of these, and then you'll prioritize these 3 categories, ranking them from primary to secondary to tertiary, in accordance to how important you think they are as to your character concept. And for your primary, you'll have 5 dots to spend. For your secondary, you'll have 4 dots to spend, and 3 for your tertiary choice. And yeah, so why don't you guys go ahead and put down your dots where you think they should go. And if any of you have already gotten around to that step, why don't you let me know kind of where you lie on the primary, secondary, tertiary scale, and any particularly high attributes or maybe some weaknesses that your character has.
Yeah, I might have jumped the gun a little bit. As a judge, yeah, I feel like the 2 big things for me are intelligence, and my social attributes, so presence. So that's pretty much where all my points are going.
Very charismatic character.
Yeah.
I dig it. All right. Do you have any particularly weak stats, or are you kind of average across the rest of the board?
Yeah, kind of average. I have no imperfections. I'm an instrument of the judges. I don't suffer such human limitations.
Yes. You're a perfect instrument of your deity's will. You will not suffer a blemish upon all of your features. All right. So, Zevlus, Press, you guys got your dots down? Or
yeah,
you need some help thinking about it?
I'm gonna see how it builds out between my last between the rest of the character building for what's actually in my top, because it's 5 versus 4, so it's just picking where the last dot goes. But I'm thinking probably mental, and then maybe a little bit of the social stuff, and then I'm not very a physical character. I think a character's much more about wanting to about the knowledge and the depth of religion. It's something I'd like to explore. And then if I want to do something with what I know, I need to be able to talk to people. I gotta sell it. I gotta sell my ideas to them.
It's true.
So.
Right. Prez, how are you coming along on putting dots to paper?
I think, I know for sure that tertiary is probably going to be the social one. My character isn't much of a talker. As
Much
for...
more of a stabber, I see.
He's not the social butterfly. But that's okay for his... I'd say for his style for his kind of work, that's maybe not necessarily as important as some other things. I think I will probably put physical stats as my primary, and the mental stats for attributes for the secondary. So primary is physical, secondary is mental, tertiary is social. So I'm gonna rank those. And I think I got all my dots sorted now.
So I hope you enjoyed dots, because there's more of them coming as we switch here from attributes to skills. These being more of the fruits of your character's learning and training, the particular abilities you've retained from your life and from the endless cycle of rebirth that the rite of return enforces upon you. And just like before, these are split between mental, physical, and social categories, but these do not begin with a free dot. And again, you're going to prioritize them. And when you assign these, think about what you want your character to be able to do and what any particular skill might mean for you. Was your knack for weaponry forged in the crucible of battle in the ancient days of Arisen, or was it something you picked up in the ensuing millennia? So, why don't you guys take some time, look over the various skills, and add some dots to paper. And I did mention this before, but we are going to be starting in a pre-modern time, though modern is a bit subjective when you're a eternal, deathless creature detached from time itself. But nonetheless, some of the standard skills are going to be replaced with their Dark Era's equivalent. Computers is replaced by enigmas. Archery replaces firearms, and ride replaces drive. And do try and pick whatever you feel is the most appropriate for your character. You know, we don't need to try and like balance out all the skills between everyone. I'm going to try to tailor any challenges we come against to your particular set of skills. If everyone kind of feels that they're getting pushed in the social direction, then I will throw more social challenges your way. I'm not going to inundate you with combat after combat if that's not something that you guys find worthy of putting your points into. But nonetheless, anyone care to share where they've ranked their skills on primary, secondary, tertiary, and any particularly adept skills your character possesses?
Yeah, so I've put my physical skills at the honorary rank of tertiary. I've barely got any dots in it whatsoever. My character is very much a thinker and a talker, and if it wasn't for the numerous benefits of being a mummy, it would probably be pretty garbage in a fight. It's kind of difficult, but I ended up putting my mental skills in my secondary pick, mainly focusing on politics and academics, with some minor investments in investigation, occult, and science. And I put the lion's share of my skill points into my social attributes, with my most strongest skill being persuasion. Sorry. Yeah.
Excellent. I dig it. Zavlus or Prez, do you guys have an inkling of what you want to do, or need any assistance on where to put those dots of yours? How's it going?
I talked about mine a little bit. My least important is physical. The way I'm kind of, I guess the way I'm kind of approaching my physical is to try to make sure I can get away. I'm not going to be really good at putting up a fight. So if I can't, if it's fight or flee, I'm going to flee. And I guess looking at these kind of helps me pick out my primary and secondary. I see useful social skills, but they definitely I feel like I'd get more use out of the mental skills. So I'm probably gonna look into. Well, I want to learn. So I probably want to do something a lot. Well, probably investigation. I think investigation would be more important.
Yeah, I feel like investigation would probably be appropriate.
Occult.
Occult is always good. Yes, that's pretty universally handy. I might also recommend. You mentioned that you wanted to go down this like route of like investigating like religion and seeing what the faiths of new era you find yourself in. Typically, that might fall under academics, so having some dots there might be helpful. Aside from that, yeah, I mean, any of them I think could be useful. Though something to keep in mind as you're assigning your 11, 7, 4 for your dots. There is a penalty for untrained skills. And while it's only a single die penalty for your physical and social, it is a -3 for your mental. It's kind of hard to improvise on a knowledge subject when you know nothing about it. So it does kind of behoove you to spread your points around if you want to avoid that, but if you'd rather be really solid in a few areas as opposed to some sort of Renaissance mummy, then by all means.
Oh, yeah. Let me check something. Make sure I understand it correctly before I make an assumption on it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think I might want to take some. I could see enigmas potentially being useful.
It is an interesting skill, yes.
And I am going to invest a little bit in politics because part of my game is going to be some manipulation. And maybe having an idea of how to work the system may be useful.
Definitely.
And then social. We're all about spreading religion here, right? And that's how I want to do it. And so let's see here.
So,
Got 7 dots here.
I can, like, as far as spreading religion is concerned, I can kind of see, like, 2, like, big avenues for that. Expression might be more of your, like when you think of, like, a firebrand sort of preacher, you know, giving, like, a sermon, you know, that sort of style might be more expression. But if you are more of, like, the down-to-earth, like, trying to, like, convert people, like, where they are and, like, convince them of, like, the merits of the old faith, that might be a little more personal, might fall maybe under persuasion. And, you know, maybe you do a mixture of both, like maybe you lean one towards the other. That's up for you to decide.
Well, I think it would be really fun to be in a very expressive mummy. To have a lot of opinions and be very loud about them.
And if you've got expression, you've certainly got a way with words. You've probably got that on lock. Then.
And then I might double up in a little bit of empathy and intimidation to try to maybe put a spin on something. Some people respond better to fear. Some people respond better to empathy.
Yeah, I mean, now that you say it, I suppose you could loop intimidation in there as well, but that might be a little over the top, you know, converting people by the sword and whatnot. Might not go over all that well, but then again, you're an unkillable machine of ancient sorcery.
I might have some magical ideas that might be a little bit quite persuasive in the numbers department.
All right. Well, that wraps things up for you. Prez, how's your character going?
Yeah, I think I know what I want to do. So tertiary skills is probably going to be social. 4 dots, correct? Just make sure for tertiary.
Yeah, 4 dots
Yeah.
for your tertiary. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
for-
I put 1 in intimidation. Never know when you might need it to interrogate. 1 for streetwise, and 2 for subterfuge. I figure I should at least be able to deceive people.
Yeah. Your concept definitely feels like subterfuge would probably be a key skill for you. I would imagine.
For my secondary skills, I chose mental. I put 1 dot in academics. He's somewhat learned. He's not a scholar, obviously, but he knows enough, and he might be more than willing to look up more information, depending on if it's useful. I put 2 dots in enigmas. I kind of figure he's the kind of person that has to go out and figure things out, and if he's kind of in the espionage, business, that means he's probably going to have to unravel a few things or know how to unravel some things. So that's why I put 2 dots. I put 3 dots in investigation. He is the kind of person, he's almost. I would almost say he sometimes borders the line of in the past life, maybe as a secret police. So I think investigation in that sense makes sense that he's really good at snipping things out, which is especially good if you're fighting other, spies, enemies. And the last thought I put in politics, just so he has knowledge of that. And, I mean, as a spy, he probably needs to at least have a little bit of, understanding and competence and that.
Yeah, getting through all the red tape and all of that. I take it.
And of course, my primary is skills, physical. I put 2 in athletics. He's very agile. 2 in brawl. He's pretty good at fisticuffs. 2 in larceny. And I'm kind of hedging between either putting 3 in stealth or 3 in weaponry. I can't talk. 3 in weaponry or 3 in stealth and 2 in weaponry. I figure since he's a little more aggressive, I'm kind of going to lean towards putting 3 dots in weaponry. Just really good at fighting with, in this case, daggers.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at this.
I think there's merits to both, especially since you already have some dots in brawl. You can certainly kind of split the difference there and have, some brawl, some weaponry. I know some people will only pick one combat style above all others, and there is some merit, to have both of them, because brawl is special in that it is the grappling skill.
Yeah.
But weaponry, again, wielding weapons, you tend to be doing more damage, or you might have, additional modifiers to your attack, depending on what kind of weapon that you are wielding or what style, you're fighting in. And you'll see once we get to some of the cool powers that you'll have access to, they'll also kind of gear towards particular combat styles as well. There's some powers that will affect your unarmed attacks. Some of them, that might conjure mystical weapons for you to fight with.
Yeah,
I do think it's definitely safe to take both if you want, because not having brawl when you find yourself in a grapple can be a very unfortunate situation to find yourself in.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I also just felt like those dots fit the character. He's scrappy. He's able to handle himself in grapple.
Yeah, you got a pretty nice spread there. So, pretty capable across the board.
So that's I think for me it makes sense to do both instead of just one.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Maybe if I was less of a physical character, maybe I'd just focus on one just to be.
Yeah, when you don't have as many dots to throw around, it kind of behooves you. Well, in the same vein of skills, moving on to the next step here, we have specialties. Skills specialties, as they were. So your skills kind of represent, broad areas of knowledge, but specialties are kind of the refinements or areas of focus, within those particular fields. You might have dots in academics, but you might have a specialty in architecture or religion or law. It's kind of a nice way to kind of more define your character and also give you a little boost on skills that you might use more than others. So knowing kind of your skill spread, where you have a lot of dots, it might behoove you to put, some specialties in skills that you're particularly good at, but it's also useful to put them in skills that you have, maybe a little or just a moderate sort of input on, as that can kind of, shall we say, define your character a bit more. Maybe you only have 2 dots in, a general sense of the skill, but you're very skilled in a particular area. That kind of sets you apart from the pack, so to speak. But regardless, what sort of specialties do you guys imagine? Do you folks imagine for your characters? What sort of specializations, what areas of particular interest do you imagine?
For me, quite obviously, as someone that's going for a light and judge, I'm gonna go with a law specialty with academics. It just feels like a no-brainer for me there. My character was also like part of the what has to like I'm
Such
gonna like
Hebsu?
that's the Scribes Guild. I know that's what I want to do.
I believe
So
it's Sesha Hebsu, I think. But
I always get them confused with the alchemists.
The old Messenebu, yeah.
Messenebu. Yeah, it's all the same to me. Yeah, so the other ones I've gone with is a specialty in politics with bureaucracy, and academics again with writing.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. So all very mental skills there.
Yeah, very, very hyper-focused. Nice. Zavlus, Prez, you guys have any ideas or looking for suggestions for your specialties?
I'm really confident on 2, and the third one's actually could kind of apply to 2 skills. So maybe looking at redoing one of my skills, but obviously academics, religion. Know the old faith really well. Might be helpful in learning new faiths. I want to be able to spread religion, so obviously being able to preach and do it well will help a lot with that. And then I want to do if I'm preaching, if I might become might dabble in turning my cult into a church of sorts. And then I'm thinking of maybe doing socialize on the church, or otherwise it would be some kind of politics organization. I'm not exactly sure how I want to apply to church yet, but that's something I need to decide. But I think I want to do something with the church.
Yeah, I dig it. For your academics, you said religion, correct?
Yes.
So, do you want that specialty? Because I think you said, you're talking about like your knowledge of the old faith. If you were looking for like a specialization, like specifically to like your ancient like eremite like religion,
yeah.
Like the old faith as it were, that's dead and gone, that might fall more under occult, as you're dealing with more like supernatural sort of prehistoric forces of the cosmos, while academics religion specialty might be more oriented towards, should we say, modern like religions, religions as they exist in the world, less focused on sort of like the mystical like aspects of things. That's kind of where like that split is academics is more like religion as it is, and occult kind of tends to cover more of like the weird supernatural aspects, which religion can kind of cover both of those. As far as the church is concerned, given that what I imagine your character doing, I think socialize within the church could be definitely appropriate. Like if you like want to make inroads like with that organization, if you want to sort of wiggle and worm your way into the Catholic Church, that would certainly be an avenue to like make those social networks and those like connections, at least on the social side. If you want something like more like maybe like knowledgeable or like practical, you might also do politics within the church. If you were like trying to like actively like push levers or pull levers, get stuff done, or make things happen within the church. Politics might also be appropriate, but you can kind of do that with socialize as well. That is kind of the nice thing about some of these skills, is there is kind of some overlap where you can more or less achieve the same result through similar or different ends. But
I think definitely when it comes to church, I think once we get to like merit and stuff, I think that might help me kind of choose what avenue I want to go down with that. And thinking about it, I think I'm leaning more towards switching to a cult.
Okay.
Not a religion. That does seem to fit a little bit more with the old faith as opposed to academics.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the new faith. I got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Or new faiths.
They worship some god that got killed by a crucifix. That's what?
Apparently,
There's only one.
There's only one God.
There's only
what's
one.
going on here? We're the pantheons.
Where's Utek? Where's Amon?
Times have changed.
I guess they drink his blood too.
What's his body and blood?
Cannibals.
Ridiculous New Age religions.
Well, old faith versus new faith aside, yeah, I think whatever you choose is good. All of those sound like great ideas. Prez, I think we still need to touch on your specializations. What have you got in mind?
Just a quick clarification. 4 specializations. What we start out with? Is that what we said?
Or should be 3.
3. Got it.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So for those, I was thinking. Pull up the sheet here. So I was thinking, for one thing, grappling be a good specialization. Sometimes he may not. He might be caught without his weapons, so he needs to break out of a hold. Other times, I think maybe he needs to subdue somebody alive. So, I think compared to, other methods, grappling is probably the best way to subdue somebody.
It is. Someone builds grappling builds. You can't. It is very effective at that.
The next specialization I was looking at was I'm actually kind of stuck between this is between 2 stealth specializations. One I looked at was shadowing, the other one I looked at was hiding in plain sight. I feel like it's kind of I feel like the difference is a little bit, I guess, kind of a play style almost, because either one works.
Yeah, and you'll find there can be some overlap with some of the the specializations. Similar.
I guess yeah.
I mean, at least as far as those 2 are considered, I mean, they are pretty close. Shadowing is probably a little more specific, as that's kind of like following a person,
tailing somebody,
tailing people through a crowd, while hiding in plain sight kind of gives me more of like a passive vibe. Like observing, hiding in like a
you're not drawing suspicion.
Yeah, you're kind of like in the area and just kind of blending in, as opposed to maybe a more like active approach. But you can kind of see an argument either way.
Yeah, I think I'll do shadowing. I think it fits my character's personality a little better, just actively tailing somebody.
Yeah, especially if you've got a knife in your on your belt, aimed for their back. Getting close might be helpful.
And for one more, I didn't see it in the book, but is it possible to do a specialization with daggers? Where we just
yeah, that'd be
like
new daggers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I didn't see it. But
and the specialties that they list in the book. That's not by any means an exhaustive list. You can come up
Yeah.
with any specialty of your own. They're just kind of a starting point, for you to think about.
Okay, well, in that case, I'll blast specialties daggers.
All right. So, we've covered concept, we've covered attributes and skills. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. We are going to get into the Arisen template itself. You've got kind of the rough shape of your character. Now we're going to add just a touch of magic to that. We're going to wrap you up with all these delicious powers to kind of fill out your character, how the rite of return has changed them. So, starting off here, we're going to touch on balance and burden. These are the sort of virtue and vice analogs for mummies. And as mummies, you're sort of made from the aether of ancients. You are walking corpses. You are filled with fleeting memory and time. You are rebuilding yourself with each incarnation and remembering terrible and awesome truths about your past. Your balance and burden are sort of a take on your would normally be your original virtue and vice, perhaps changed. Each Arisen feels the weight of their judge's expectation in a different way, and they bear that as their burden. Their balance, on the other hand, is what allows them to rise above the timeless shackles of the judges and continue on their unending duty to Iran. Balance sort of keeps you on the path that the judges have laid out for you. There's always kind of an echo of the long ago and what your character might have believed to have been virtuous, and sort of balance is the best of those things. And anytime you overcome a challenge to affirm your balance, you gain a willpower. And should you overcome something incredibly risky or philosophically challenging to your balance, you'll instead recover all of your willpower. On a different note, the burden of the Arisen is sort of the weight that you bear from the sacred duty that is laid upon you. Arisen respond differently to the burdens from their rite of return, and they use them as ways to process, avoid, or get lost in those emotional reverberations. They're kind of the negative ways that mummies interact with their duties. There are a number of, so we say, suggested balances and burdens in the book here. You have balances such as courageous or devoted or diligent, and you have burdens like accusing, careless, or chaotic. Each of them are ways for you to regain willpower, but they also say something about your character, sort of what they, what traits they admire, what personal character virtues that they try and live up to, and sort of the personal flaws that they fall back on when things get tough. Those bad habits that you slip into time and time again. So hopefully you've all had some time to look at these sort of balances and burdens. You are welcome to choose any of the sample ones. You're welcome to come up with something appropriate on your own. Now, do any of you have anything in mind for your balance and burden? If you want to jump up on the plate here, or do you guys need some time to think about it? Or maybe you'd want to talk about some that you're leaning between.
I actually...
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
You go.
you okay? I actually do know mine.
Okay.
Or at least that. Yeah. For my balance, I was thinking diligent. He's very, you know,
Very on task.
yeah. He knows how to get things done, and he gets them done. That's kind of the. I figure just based on the job he does, it's necessary. You want to have a long career in that.
Yeah, it is an admirable quality to possess in that line of work.
Mm-hmm. And for the burden, I chose resentful. I kind of looked at some of the sample burdens and I didn't really feel like any fit, but then I found resentful and I'm like, yeah, he might be the kind of guy that holds grudges, especially if he feels slighted or he feels, ashamed, like for shame for some reason, like, just he remembers things, and to some extent it can help in the area he's in espionage, just remembering things to keep him focused. But yeah, he has a tendency to hold grudges perhaps a little too often.
Sort of above and beyond what would be normal for most mummies. There's kind of the, I guess, running theme of wreaking vengeance upon your foes, those that have defiled your tomb or whatever. And it's interesting to see when that trait is like cranked up to an 11, and that's kind of what I'm imagining. I mean, you're an immortal creature. Nothing can kill you. You have an eternity of lifetimes to fulfill a grudge, and in presumably many horrific ways. But no, I dig it. I dig it. All right. So resentful for the burden, and diligent for the balance, right?
Yep.
Okay. Grog, I think you were trying to chime in earlier. You got an idea?
I was. Yeah, I do have an idea. So my character sees themselves as a leader, a wise philosopher king, and they know what's best for people, and they believe it's their duty to lead people to a better life. And I've gone with noble as my balance. However, they are definitely up their own ass. They are dominant. They know what's best for you, and there's no debate for that. Yeah.
Sure.
That's me.
How do you imagine that? Like where is your line on nobility? What sort of traits or actions does your character try and uphold? How does that sort of sense of nobility manifest? Do you have a code of honor, or just a general trying to be better than everyone else, and a moralistic and maybe other senses? How do you imagine that applying to your character?
I imagine it applying in my character tries to help humanity make a better world. Whether that might be by getting them to improve their law and order systems and whatnot, or basically they want to uplift humanity to a better state through the enlightened will of the judges and themselves.
Mommy knows best.
Mommy knows best. Thank you, Trevor. I couldn't have put it so succinctly myself.
Yeah, I dig it. I like it a lot. All right, so noble for our balance. What about burden? What's dragging you?
I'm an ass. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't take debate. It's what I say is correct, and that is the way we're doing things. I have a really hard time being when people say no to me. I'm not used to it ever. I've become incredibly entitled as a mummy.
Okay. Now, is that something that is like within like your cult, or is that just like everybody you come across?
Everyone, yeah. Like I see myself better than like emperors should defer to me. Like I'm the final authority on this earth. Short of a judge coming down themselves and telling me what to do, I'm the best place to go. For I guess authority, yeah.
All right. Okay. So, lastly, Zevlus, what you got for us?
As a zealot, I'm a very righteous mummy. There's a right, and there is a wrong, and there's a decision you should make, and there's a code for that. And because I'm very righteous and very guided by my morality, I think I have a tendency to be a bit rageful. I get a bit upset when there's something wrong. When there is, if there's, heresy.
All right. Sort of what's the scene from
Might flip a couple tables.
Yeah, Jesus in the what is it, the coin changers or something like that in the market. Yeah, breaking out a whip, and you're just gonna go through the markets on a rampage. All right. Okay, so
Price of bread is too goddamn high.
all right, so we have rageful and righteous wrath, as it were, a beautiful classic combination. All right, so we've got balance and burden covered. Moving on to the next step here, we have touchstones. So these are kind of your key connections, shall we say. They are people, say, closest to you, and not necessarily in the sense of, perhaps your most, trusted companion or something like that, but they are some element of this person, some quality or archetype they exist as, kind of awakens some sort of dim recollection in your memory. These are the people that you want to keep close to you. You perhaps care about them, maybe even love them. But nonetheless, it's important that you keep them safe. Now, you're each going to start with a single touchstone. And these touchstones come in a variety of types. The most common are Sadiq, which we might get into a bit later, but they are sort of the, if you're familiar with vampire, they're sort of the ghoul equivalent. They are a companion that, through a trick of your magic, you've made them immortal as well, and a lesser immortal, mind you, but nonetheless they rise and fall as you do, an immortal companion to keep you company. Aside from that, the other two most common types are witnesses and inheritors. Witnesses are typically normal humans that, by some strange quirk of fate or magic, perhaps, are immune to the ravages of Sybaris. They don't suffer it as most do, and they have sort of an inherent sense for the magic of the deathless. Some might consider them, reincarnations of past loves or family members. But regardless of what quirk of fate makes them different, they are nonetheless different. And many Arisen try and keep these individuals close to them. Finally, we also have inheritors. These are mortals, typically members of your cult, that you've trusted enough to place a part of your immortal soul within them. You've invested them with a bit of your power. And in doing so, they gain a small fraction of your power. But more importantly, they become a vessel for you. They are a reliquary, a horcrux, if you will, a human that, should the worst happen, should your body be destroyed, your organs turned to cinder, you may reincarnate your immortal soul through your inheritor. A last backup, fail-safe, if you will. So it behooves you to choose carefully who you want to invest your soul into. Most of these touchstones are typically brought under the sway of the cult, though sometimes they are kept outside of it. The book here has some sample sort of archetypes for touchstones. So what I'd like for you guys is to either select one of these archetypes that are suggested, or come up with some sort of concept of your own, of your touchstone, this person that we're close to. Now, we don't necessarily need to start off with your touchstone being around. We can certainly introduce your touchstone, through play. We come across a character and you decide that character likes them, admires them or respects them in some fashion, and make them your touchstone. But nonetheless, I'd like you guys to kind of come up with some sort of concept that resonates with you or your character, and then think of a virtue or vice for this character, some sort of defining character trait. And the reason I asked is there's a mechanical benefit as well to your touchstone when helping your touchstone fulfill their virtue or vice. It grants you reminiscence beats, a fraction of an experience to increase your memory. And if regaining your lost memories is important to you, being close to your touchstone is a good way to reawaken some of those familiar memories within you. Though, do be warned that getting close to people also has its downsides. Should your touchstone be killed while you still live, that is, it is a breaking point towards your memory, as that tenuous connection that you shared is now scattered as infinite grains of ancient sand that now clutter your mind. So if you go under, I think it's page 162, there's some sample sort of touchstones, and it goes a bit more into Sadiq and inheritors and witnesses. But take a few moments, look over that, and if any of you have an idea already of what you might want for your touchstone, let me know.
Yeah, I can. I'm really liking the dutiful clerk here as the one of the example touchstones. I think it resonates with kind of what I'm going for. This character, my character's probably never met them before, so it'd probably be something like hops up in play.
Right.
But I think what draws my character to them is that they're a cog in the machine. And there's something comforting and familiar about that to them that they see. Yeah. Quite simple.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Zavlus or Prez, do you guys have any inkling on what sort of touchstone your character might be close to?
I'm still looking.
Sure, yeah, no rush. We can always come back to this later. Or, of course, we can always touch on it as play progresses, but something to think about, nonetheless. Though, if I had to wager a guess for your character, at least out of the examples, I would maybe think of like the firebrand cultist, or perhaps the doubting lords sort of archetypes. They kind of seem to fill like that niche of the religious niche that you kind of got your character going down. But anyway, Prez, have you had a chance to look at those? Are you leaning towards anything? Or are you still kind of up in the air on your touchstone?
I guess I'm kind of in the air. I'm kind of curious what, I don't know, what you might think would work for mine.
Yeah. So, you've kind of got this spy espionage concept going on. The hard line towards the mission. If I had to wager a guess, you kind of lean more towards the physical side. So maybe the guardian of the pillar. Maybe you've invested a piece of yourself in someone else, and they kind of share that same physical aptitude that you have, and maybe they think kind of similarly to you. Maybe they have that same sort of mindset of once they get their mind on something, they plan it out, and by the gods they do it. And maybe that's why you chose them to be a vessel for part of your soul. Alternatively, you could kind of go against the grain, as we say. You've got this kind of hardline character, all about the mission, all about fulfilling your duties to your judge. You might kind of go against that and maybe do something that touches on you a bit more, to your human side. Maybe you do something like the shadow of an old flame, or the epitome of life. Some sort of character, maybe to pull you away from your duty, something about them draws you to them, and maybe provides that sort of friction between duty and personal ambitions. Maybe that fills and kind of fits into your aspiration of that choice between duty and what you want versus what your judges want of you.
I think that makes more sense for my character, especially with that aspiration in mind. Honestly, just for the most I guess contrast, I think I'd like to go with epitome of life for my touchstone.
Okay.
Yeah,
as much of
carefree.
Yeah,
very carefree.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he doesn't mind it too much.
the one person you can excuse that in. All right, I like that. Okay, so we've got our touchstone out of the way.
I actually might have an idea.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's hear it before I move on.
I see where you're going with the firebrand cultist and doubting Lawrence, but I was actually also maybe thinking the epitome of life, being where I may want to take my character. Something to counter
Okay, yeah, in the same.
the tradition.
Yeah.
I'm a very traditional guy, and so if something, there needs to be something that drives me
So
to
maybe.
start to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
So
Like someone who's like, I don't want to say violently, but like exceedingly like non-conformist, like someone who's like kind of like pushing, boundaries or like breaking like traditions, and is that kind of like what's drawing your character to them?
maybe it's like like they have some tie to me as a character, but I've been Arisen again, and this person that is close to me has maybe strayed from the old faith.
Oh,
And
okay.
I
So
want to understand why.
okay, so someone that you've met before in another time that you were awake, and they're kind of like following like the same path that you seem to be like going down. Like they were a member of the old faith, like they've moved on, they've like gone on to something new, and like by like understanding them, like you're coming to like terms with yourself. Is that kind of what you're kind of getting
yeah.
at? Okay.
Yeah, because I do imagine my character very much being a Zeliot, but I like the idea of being able to, exploring what's in the world and what is it to this new thing? Why have people changed?
Yeah.
And maybe my touchstone can be my vehicle for this adventure.
Sure. I like that. That's a nice idea. All right, so we've got those out of the way. So moving on to the next step in character creation. Here we have our decree. So your mummy's decree is sort of the foundation of her enduring sense of self. It is the medium by which her soul has survived the rite of return, and through which she is empowered to return again and again. She pronounced that part of her being before the judges, affirming her will and determination. There are 5 decrees for you to pick from, and the decree cannot be changed later. It's a fundamental part of your character's nature. Of these decrees, we have Asham, or the jackal-headed. They are sort of the unflinching guardians and the wise occultists. They kind of help others to confront fear as they too confront fear. Their defining pillars shoot, and you begin with the Jackal's Shade as a bonus affinity. We also have the Deshret, the falcon-headed. They are sort of the ambitious visionaries. There's the zealous champions. They test themselves and pursue greater heights of accomplishment. Their pillar is Ba, and they gain Soaring Falcon as a bonus affinity. We also have Keru, the lion-headed. They are the passionate heralds. They're the vital, thrill-seeking beings. They pursue the exhilarating highs and the grievous lows of existence with equal enthusiasm. They have Ab as their primary pillar, and they gain the lion's pride as a bonus affinity. We also have Nesrem, the bull-headed. They are the enduring sentinels. They are tireless devotees. They overcome challenges and create lasting legacies. They get Ka as their pillar, and they begin with Guardian Bull as a bonus affinity. And finally, we also have Usheb. They're the serpent-headed. They're the cunning tacticians. They're the clever manipulators. They hunt for hidden truths and ravenously pursue knowledge. They gain Ren as their defining pillar. And they also begin with Serpent's Tongue as their bonus affinity. So, again, your Arisen, when they underwent the right of return when they were killed for the first time after they traveled through the underworld of Duat. At the end of their journey, they stood before their judge, and they issued their decree, the most fundamental sort of part of their soul. And looking over these options, these decrees, what do you think speaks to the most sort of fundamental truth of what character? What decree do you think they would have uttered when they stood before their judge?
I'll go. I'm gonna go with Keru, the ardent decree of the heart. My character's very passionate about what they do. They're a complete and utter nerd and dork for legality. They do have some pleasure in helping people and just improving the world when during their time in it and whatnot. They're strangely compassionate, despite their aloofness.
It's an interesting contrast. I like it.
Yeah.
Prez or Zephlus, what do you guys? Or sorry, would you have more that you wanted to add?
Oh no, I was just gonna put the favorite attribute to presence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have an idea of which one you think, or are you kind of deciding between two?
I know my character I think would fit the Deshret decree. Very the Fountainhead. I mean, they're very sorry, I lost my train of thought here.
That's all right. So with
basically
the...
it's a diligent decree, decree of spirit. They're always focused on, obtaining the goal and doing it. I think that fits my character's personality pretty well.
Yeah, and maybe with the Falcon-headed, it's maybe more than just like doing the duty. It's like, going like one step beyond, or like taking on like even more dangerous, missions.
He's a fighter, so that's right up his alley.
Yeah. All right. Zevlus, what have you got for us? Are you still kind of on the fence?
I think I'm leaning towards Nesrum.
Nesrum, the bulls. Yeah, they're an interesting one.
The idea of trying to build legacies, build something lasting, establishing something, and every time you come back, it's like it's falling apart.
That is definitely a theme of Mummy that will no doubt hit very close to home for your character. Yeah, I think that fits pretty well with what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our Deshret, we have our Nesram, and our Keru. A falcon, a lion, and a bull. A nice little mixture there. So, with those decrees pledged, going back in time a little bit, before you were ritually sacrificed, you were a citizen of the Nameless Empire. You were a member of one of the great guilds of a realm. The guilds are kind of occult fellowships. They were forged in the days of Arem among the sort of sorcerous craftsfolk of the Empire. Each guild kind of specialized in a different area of ritualistic magic. And these associations have carried through after the Rite of Return. Now, of course, the guilds are in disarray, you might say. It's hard to maintain a cohesive organization when it's composed of amnesiacs traveling back and forward through time. Now the guilds are kind of more of loose sinew binding the Arisen society together. Many of the Arisen still kind of hew to the old guild allegiances from their living days, and it's relatively rare that an Arisen would break the bonds to her guild entirely. But nonetheless, of Irem, there were 5 great guilds, shall we say. 5 guilds that you were part of. One of these guilds, there are the Makep. They are the spies, the manipulators, they are the watchdogs. They observe, they gather information, and they examine the principles underlying each iteration of civilization they witness. And amulets are their chosen magical vessel. We also have the Messen Nebu. They are the alchemists, the revolutionaries. They are the deal makers. They seek potential, prosperity, and transformation. They watch how the web of commerce and trade ensnares each civilization in turn. Regia are their chosen magical vessel. We also have the Seshahebsu. They're the diplomats, the lore keepers, the arbiters. They preserve knowledge, they seek wisdom, and study the tangled threads of cause and effect. Texts are their chosen magical vessel. We also have the Sumanet. They are the necromancers, the priests, the advisors. They chase the mysteries of life and death and observe how ruination and disaster shape the course of cultures and nations. Utter are their chosen magical vessel. Last but certainly not least, we have the Tafabi. They're the leaders, the architects, they're the geomancers. They seek power and influence through connections and symbols of the divine and follow the rise and fall of great cities and monuments. Effigies are their chosen vessel. So with that in mind, judging from your character, your concept that you've built up until this point, what sort of guild do you think is most applicable to them? What guild would they have served in their mortal lives in the days of the Nameless Empire?
For me, it's totally the Seshahebsu. I can't, like, that's kind of what I built like my entire concept off. So yeah, easy pick for me there.
It is certainly fitting within the concept, yes. All right. So we have a Seshahebsu. What about the rest of you guys? What are you thinking? Do you have a guild in mind, or still kind of fluctuating?
Yeah, I definitely picked the Makep for my character. That secret police, aspect, the people who go behind the scenes. That's my character pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. And lastly, Zevlus, what have you got for us? What are we thinking?
Are we looking at the judges?
We're looking at the guild. Guild. Right
Guild.
now.
Okay, I was looking at the room.
That's all right.
I'm not seeing anything what he's talking about here.
Yeah.
What is this?
I know all the Egyptian can kind of, it's all Greek to me. Yeah.
I think I have my judge.
well, good for you, because we're gonna get to that next here. Yeah. So currently we're looking at guild. So there's
Yes,
5.
I did find them now.
Yeah, the 5
Um,
great guilds of the Empire. If I had to imagine what your character would fall under, I think either Sumanet or the Tafabi could be equally applicable. They both kind of vibe with the concept that you have, though in kind of different ways. Sumanet, they're your necromancers, but they're also kind of the priests. They were the closest to the Shaniatu, the kind of sorcerer priests that ran your ancient empire. So they were kind of the closest to the faith. But they also kind of have that focus on like the mysteries of life and death. So if you're not as like attuned to kind of that like necromancer vibe, then maybe the Tafabi might be something more your style. They they're the leaders, the architects, the geomancers. They kind of jive with like that legacy concept that you have from your like decree of like, oh, like maybe instead of you might be devoted to like constructing like physical monuments to your faith, obelisks, shrines, like that sort of thing. Like you want a physical like reminder of your gods, or your personal like ambitions to leave a mark. That might be something you might be interested in. But you're more than welcome to choose any of those guilds, of course. Whatever you think works best for your character, or whatever strikes you as the most interesting.
I think I'm kind of leaning to Fabi, especially with they're slower to adopt new approaches.
Okay.
So I think I'll work really well with like kind of like reaching maybe a point in each age and just kind of like becoming, you grow into it and then you're arisen again, and you don't want to just accept what is new. There's the resistance of, and making a mark on the world, having the legacy. So I think
Okay.
I think the Tafabi is definitely where I'm going.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So, we have our Sasha Hebsu, we have our Makep, and our Tefabi. With that handled, now we can move on to judges here. So, kind of touched on it a bit earlier, but your character declared her decree in the presence of a particular judge when they first descended to Duat. The judges, they are 42 terrible and alien divinities that assess Ma'at, this Egyptian sort of concept of like truth and justice. As their namesake suggests, they judged. All in Duat had to pass beneath their judgment. They hold authority over the fate of every being that passes before them. And yet, faced with their horrible, horrible majesty, your particular Arisen found the knowledge of herself, of her fundamental virtues and flaws, and held firm and stated the truth of her soul. And in doing so, you entered the service of one specific judge. Now, I mentioned that there are 42 judges, but many of them deal in, shall we say, narrow or perhaps more opaque sins or concepts with which even the Arisen struggle to find resonance. Others might spend long ages in seeming dormancy, perhaps because the crimes they condemn prove of little significance among humanity for centuries or perhaps even millennia. And Others might even loathe the Arisen themselves and simply reject their service or even persecute them. Some might just have no need for the service of deathless like yourselves. As such, the bulk of the Arisen tend to serve around a handful of particular judges. So there are several judges in the core book, and there are also a few that got added in the book of Lasting Death. I'm not going to go into them in a ton of detail, but there is a lot of detail to go into. Just kind of a very brief kind of overview. And again, I'm probably going to butcher the Egyptian on these, but I'll try my best. We have Amkaigit, the Eater of Shadows, who judges crimes against humanity, particularly mass murder. There's also Rem Abfu, the final judge, who concerns itself with crimes against the cosmos, particularly through sorcery and science reaching beyond humanity's station. There's also Kenemti, the penitent, who condemns crimes of blasphemy and desecration against the sacred. We also have Nebha, the flame, who judges deception and lies. There's also Neheb-Ka, the one who unifies, who concerns itself with iniquities born from human pride and arrogance. There's also Unem-Besek, the Eater of Entrails, who judges the theft of land, the denial of sustenance, and the disruption of dominion. We also have Usek-Nemtet, the first judge, who concerns itself with those challenging the judges by seeking immortality, and judges even the Arisen themselves. And from the Book of Lasting Death, there's a couple of new judges that got added as well, that you are certainly more than welcome to pick from. We have Bastu, the Stare, who judges those who cheat justice or evade punishment for their crimes, or to help, or for someone who helps another to evade justice. We also have Fentu, the Snout, who is a judge of thievery, condemning those who take what rightfully belongs to another. We also have Neb Imku, the Lord of Faces. He is a judge that presides over traitors and spies, particularly those who exploit stealth or trust to gain information and act upon it to further their agendas. And we also have Nether-Tem, the Eternal Lotus, who is a strange judge, even by the standards of its kin. Rather than berserk condemnation without compromise, it acknowledges nuance and subtlety. It presides over judgment of morally gray wrongdoings, acts of transgression that sit murkily within the draconian codes of Irem, or those crimes that don't have simple, clear-cut answers. So, when your character declared their decree, who, or should I say, what entity, what Lovecraftian horror did you swear your now immortal soul to? Whose service do you, who you've sold yourself to? What is your judge?
I was originally drawn to Neba the Flame, the guy, the very truth-based judge there. But I think I'm coming around to Nefertem, the Eternal Lotus, who is the judge of what is it?
Of subtlety?
It was like the subtlety, like
Yes,
like subtle, like, judgment.
morally gray
Yeah.
wrongdoings. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what I'm going for. Like, I think that's what my character would be drawn to. Like, they see it as like, oh, this is a sophisticated judge. Like, some of the other judges are very, I don't know. To me, it seems a bit
straightforward, kind of simplistic.
very straightforward. Yeah.
It's very clear cut. Yeah. A challenging judge to serve.
Hmm.
But yeah, a very interesting judge, and I love the description they have for the eternal lotus. The Nefertem sits on a crumbling throne surrounded by still waters and lotus flowers. Its body is the withered, wrapped form of a mummy, a corroded scepter in one hand, and a single lotus flower cradled in the other, with roots digging through the dusty flesh of the palm. The neck is a ragged, dry wound. In place of a head, several falcons roost upon the stump and watch with golden eyes. Love that little description. Such a cool judge.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, I definitely think that fits with what you've got going. And it's certainly a challenging judge to follow. So, Prez or Zavlus, have you guys settled on a judge yet, or are we still on the fence?
You know, I thought about also taking Nebha, just kind of as a little ironic.
Yes, a very ironic pick of the spy, the like espionage, secret police.
Yeah.
Following a judge of truth.
I mean, who better knows who's lying than a spy?
That's true. I think there is also a judge in the Book of Lasting Death that specifically is like a judge of like spies and espionage, which is also kind of another ironic twist there as well. But that you'll see that is kind of fitting with the judges. They kind of claim dominion over a particular sin, but more often than not, they're usually willing to excuse the very sin that they judge, so long as it's following their agenda.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I'm personally leaning more towards Neheb Ka. I feel like based on the kinds of people that he would have to, I guess, the way I look at my character is he's the kind of guy that brings like fortune to, I guess originally Irem, but now, you know, whatever judge he's serving by bringing misfortune to others. I feel like that this kind of guy, the guy that the judge who's basically the whole spiel is like taking people down a peg. I feel like that fits his personality a little better, and I feel like since he is kind of a resentful Arisen, I feel like, you know, he'd get very annoyed with prideful individuals, especially if it comes at his expense. So I think I actually want to pick Neb Ka, the one who unifies.
Right. So, I definitely think that is fitting, especially when you take that into consideration with the Maquep, as they also kind of fill that role of like watching the other, you know, Arisen, and you know, making sure everyone's towing the line, like so to speak. I'm sure Neheb Ka is more than willing to help knock other Arisen down a peg. Those trying to reach above their station. But Zavlus, I think you had mentioned that you had been looking at some judges. I'm guessing you have one in mind.
Yeah, actually, I want to do Neba, the flame.
Oh, okay.
Because I was thinking, like, with where I was gonna take my character, what they're really, they're resilient. I feel like everyone else, like, they're a bit too aggressive and steadfast in their beliefs. But I feel like Neba's more of maybe trying to figure out what the truth is.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. All right.
So yeah.
Yeah. So we have Nebha, we have Nehebka, and we have
Nephilim.
Nefer.
Don't get
Yes.
mixed up.
Yeah. Gonna have to practice the pronunciation of this. But,
You can just refer to mine as Neff.
I call my judge Neff. It's,
Neff.
we're on a nickname basis.
Hey, Neff.
God.
Yo.
That's the kind of thing you get smited for. That's some
We're not on a first name basis.
that's some blasphemy right there. You're gonna get a stern talking to the next time you die. Well, nonetheless, we got our judges down. Next step on the list here is favorite attributes. So your particular decree empowers your soul, gives you strength, reinforcing your mind or your body in accordance with that fundamental part of your nature, and you get to choose one of the attributes associated with your decree and add a dot to it. For our Deshret, resolve and wits are your choices. For Keru, I think you already mentioned it, Grog, presence and strength. And for Nesrem, our bull, resolve and stamina are your choices. President Zavlus, what are you leaning towards for your favorite attribute?
I derive this from my decree.
Yes, so this is a function of your decree. The Nesrem, the bulls, you get a choice for adding an additional dot to either resolve or stamina.
I think resolve.
Right.
Definitely resolve for.
All right. So, favorite attributes out of the way. Next up, we have pillars. So, the right of return rebuilt your character's soul, even as it bound her dying existence to the will of the judges. Through the power of Sekhem, and Arisen draws on the power of the fivefold aspects of the soul to fuel your supernatural prowess, or invoke terrible magic, or to tap into the slumbering power of sacred relics. So you'll see that there are 5 parts of the soul that are called pillars. We have Ab, heart. We also have Ba, spirit. Ka, which is essence. And Ren, which is name. And Shiut, which is shadow. So you each possess a rating in each pillar, either from 0 to 5, that kind of reflects the strength of that particular part of your soul. You have 9 dots to allocate amongst these 5 pillars, with a few caveats. No pillar can have a rating that is higher than your character's primary pillar, the one that is associated with your decree. And touching on those again, your defining pillar for Keru is Ab. For Deshret, it is Ba. And for Nesrem, it is Ka.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you guys a moment to kind of put those dots wherever you want. You can spread them out. You can have kind of focused in particular aspects of your soul. Anything works.
I'm gonna go with 4 dots in heart, because I like a lot of the affinities, and I'm gonna go with 4 dots in Ren because I also like their affinities, and some of the utterances that I was looking at require shoot, so I'll put a point of shoot in there.
Yeah, and Grog brings up a good point here. You'll see a little bit later on that a lot of your powers are going to be kind of scaling off of your pillars or tied into your pillars somehow. Your utterances as well have kind of like additional bonus effects if you meet certain pillar ratings. So feel free to just kind of put something tentatively down for now, and if we start going through kind of like the affinities and utterances, and you start to think, oh well, maybe I align a little more this way or a little more that way, you can go back and kind of shift those pillars around to make things work. But yeah. For Prez or Zavlus, aside from your like primary pillar, are there any other sort of pillars that you think your character would be particularly like attuned to, or do you think you might go for more of just like a spread of your dots? Decisions. Well, I'll let you guys kind of mill on that for a bit, and maybe we can come back after we've kind of looked at some of the affinities and utterances, and that might help you narrow down some of those choices there. But nonetheless, after our pillar ratings, we have affinities and utterances. But before we get on to the good stuff, all the fun magical powers, we'll take just a little break here, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes here, and we'll get to the goods. We'll get to affinities and utterances, and wrap up character creation here. So see you guys in a couple minutes.
Bye-bye.
right, and we are back. So we've just wrapped up with pillars, and now we're moving on to the good stuff. We're touching on affinities and utterances. These are the subtle and overt powers, respectively, of the Arisen. The fun, mystical powers that you have to play with. So, get into these potent supernatural abilities of yours. Your affinities are sort of your subtle magics. They're kind of woven into your being by the right of return. Your utterances, on the other hand, can have extensive or perhaps even apocalyptic impact on the world around you. You might call down terrible plagues or invoke awful curses upon transgressors against the judges. So, starting off with affinities, your character begins play with one affinity that is dictated by your decree, of which there's only one, so that's pretty straightforward thing there. We also have a single affinity that is chosen by your guild, so there are a couple guild affinities that you have to choose from. There's also a single soul affinity that you get that must be associated with your defining pillar. And lastly, you get one free affinity of any of the soul affinities for which you meet the prerequisites, which is typically having a single dot within the associated pillar. So just to sum it up again, you get 4 to pick from. There's 1 that you were given from your decree. You have 1 to pick from your guild. You have 1 to pick of soul affinities from your defining pillar, and then 1 free from any pillar of your choice, assuming you have a dot in it. So, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look over some of these affinities. Are there any of you guys have any ideas on some that you would like, either your guild affinities or your soul affinities? What you guys leaning towards?
Yeah. I think for me, the easiest one to get out of the way first, I reckon, is the guild affinity. The one that I'm drawn to most is Lawmaster's Guile, which adds +2 dice to my academics, politics, and science rolls, and basically, whenever I read any sample of media, I can tell what has any hidden codes in it, and if the person that wrote it was sincere, and basically lets me kind of read the metadata of a written message. Yeah.
Nice.
Going on, I think the affinity, my decree affinity, the one I'm most looking at would probably be Death Mask, which hides the Arisen's true Sahau whenever it'd be revealed for any reason. Mainly because I want to be talking to people and I don't want them to be super upsetty with me when I by turning into a thousands of year old corpse out of nowhere. Super upsetty with me when so that would probably be nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like so there are benefits to not being a horrible monster in front of people. And oh sorry.
There certainly is, yes.
And for my last soul affinity I get, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of this, but I'm gonna go with Amanuris. Amanuris?
Amanuensis?
That one. But what that lets me do is add my Ren rating to my academics and expression rolls, and in addition, I understand and can speak any mortal language, and can spend a willpower point to extend that to magical or occult languages. Yeah, that's what I'm going with for my affinities.
It's pretty handy. Definitely good choices all around. Prez or Zavlus, if you guys had a chance to look over either the guild or the soul affinity, or maybe looking for some direction or input on affinities, where are you guys at in the process? It might if you're struggling, it might be easiest to go with guild first, as there's the fewest options there. It might be a little easier to start with that.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was thinking for my guild, looking at the model life web, which would give me a benefit to my expression rolls and allow me to see and helps me to automatically detect hidden alcoves, doors, spaces, or traps present in my immediate vicinity.
That is
Big use to any dungeon delver there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
that for guilds. All right. That's that out of the way. You also have 2 soul affinities to pick from. One of them must be from your defining pillar, so
which
that's
is Ka.
Ka. Yes, for Nesram, for the bulls. There's a number of those. There's also, if you care to look for any of you, there's also a couple of extra affinities and utterances in the Book of Lasting Death, if nothing from the core book strikes your fancy. As far as Ka, I mean, like, you're not
very physical.
Yeah, it is a physical element, Ka. So you could do something maybe offensive or defensive. Something like enduring flesh or living monolith might let you stand in a fight better. Or if you just want to be like that crazy priest, like casting doom and despair on everyone, you could take something like retributive curse and just try and screw over anyone who dares to attack you. But there is a social one for Ka. If you look, there's towering presence or perspective. Yeah, sorry, towering perspective. That gives you a bonus to like intimidation and politics rolls, and lets you like sense allies and contacts and status, and even has the weird ability of like
make yourself bigger.
Yeah, seeming like literally like larger than life. Like you don't like physically like change like size, but you'll kind of like warp reality around you to make yourself literally larger than life. So there's some fun uses there. But I mean, all of them could be handy.
I kind of like the idea of towering perspective. That sounds fun.
Yes, nothing.
Hail King
control.
Boma.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nothing quite sells a fiery sermon like by literally looming over your cult or your flock as this giant, avatar of your gods. This is a fun one. So that's your defining soul affinity out of the way. You also get 1 free affinity of any of the soul affinities that you meet the prerequisite for. So if you have a dot in any of the pillars, it's fair game. Or if you see something that you like from a pillar that you don't have, maybe shift some dots around. You don't have to have anything set in stone yet for your character. So as things kind of come together, feel free to move things around as that image of your character becomes a little sharper, a little clearer.
Well, then because this is my last one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would have one.
Um,
What have you put anything into pillars yet? Or are you still kind of
I was
on the
considering
fence?
spirit, so I was gonna look through Ba, but then, well, also, wait, is Ba spirit? Hold on.
Yeah,
Bar is
yeah,
spirit,
yeah. Ba is spirit. Yep.
There was also one other I was considering, but I left the page. Oh, was it Ren?
Ren name.
Name.
Yes. Both Ba and Ren have some more like mental oriented powers. So if you want something along that line, those are pretty good choices. Though Ba also has some more physical oriented ones as well. Well, you are looking over the plethora of options for your final soul affinity. I'll give you some time to look those over, and we'll shift to Prez here. So, have you had a chance to look over the affinities, have an idea of your guild or defining
Yeah.
soul affinity? What are we looking at?
Well, I think for my guild affinity, I think I'll definitely take Nexus of the Soul.
Right, and what does that one do?
Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry.
Pages. Nexus of the Soul. The mummy acts as the hub and nexus of his cult, and his affinity always allows her inheritors to act as his eyes and ears. The Arisen is always precisely aware of the location of inherited cultists relative to herself and their exact condition, including whether they are wounded or distressed. Furthermore, she may communicate with them mind to mind, transmitting her thoughts to one or more cultists as she desires and receiving the responses in clear conversation. Spending a willpower point, she can ride the senses of an inherited cultist for a scene, perceiving what they see without losing her own awareness.
Oh.
So it essentially is, you can literally, it's literally like the best spy network ever.
Yeah, no, that is exceptionally handy for your career, shall we say? No, I dig.
I mean, from that, obviously the cult's going to get built, but I think once it's built, that's the power they'll definitely want to have.
Yeah. Definitely a cool one. And you are Nesrem, which I believe is Ba for your defining pillar. You look through
I looked at those. There's some nice ones in here. I do like a number of these. I kind of liked Beast Companion. I liked Soul Infusion for the offensive powers. I actually might skip Beast Companion, especially if I take Nexus of the Soul as, my...
Yeah, they do kind of occupy, the same niche.
I could double it, but I feel like it's better to have. I feel like it's kind of
a little variety in your powers.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Soul Infusion, maybe Swift of the Sun, and I think either of those two. I'm just trying to decide which one I know for sure.
Yeah. All of those I think are pretty solid. Pretty solid.
I like the idea of Soul Infusion, being able to drain willpower or give it to somebody if I want to.
Yeah, or transfer it. Yeah, and it does give you a nice option of dealing with people non-lethally as well. If
Yes.
you drain their last willpower, you leave them comatose for a time.
Mm-hmm.
It is it's a handy one, especially if you continue to focus on brawl as a solid option. Quite literally, just like drain the life out of someone.
Yeah, I think I'll go with that. I'm gonna go with soul infusion for my defining pillar affinity.
Yeah, good choice. Do you have an idea for your free one, or are you still kind of on the fence or looking for some direction?
Definitely could use a little bit of direction.
Sure. Do you have a pillar in mind? That might help me narrow down some options for you. Or better yet, what sort of options are you looking for? Like, do you want another like physical combat oriented power? Do you want like another more like utility based ability? Do you want something like more like narrative in nature? Like what sort of
What do you mean by narrative in nature? Just curious.
Something with more like kind of like story effects.
Okay.
So like you get into some that kind of like imply other things, like in regards to like your like cult or like other organizations. Like for example, like you have some that add like additional rituals like for your cultists, or like change like some fundamental like aspect of like your relationship. As far as or sorry, you had some idea?
Well, I'm looking at one. Open of the Way looks interesting. It basically says it adds. I haven't parsed out my pillar ratings yet, but it says if you add the shoot rating to your larceny and survival skills, and you can potentially just unlock
anything. You get a skeleton key. Yeah, essentially. So I definitely feel like with your character concept, something in the lines of shoot would probably be a solid pick.
Yeah.
Opener of the Way would be a good one. By steps unseen, if you want to be like go down like the stealth angle. Grip of Death would also be good if you want something physical and like really want to double down on grappling. That's
I thought about that, but
that's a solid one. From let's see here. I think there's it's not a shoot one, but there is one from the Book of Lasting Death that I think might be appropriate. It's a Ren affinity that is the verdigris chains of deceit, and it adds your Ren rating as a dice bonus to subterfuge rolls. And whenever a rumor, gossip, or lie spreads that concerns or relates to the Arisen, you can always sense the occult flows of truth and deceit to track down the source via an investigation action. So that's like another potential like information gathering one. Another like shoot one that could be interesting if you wanted to go down like you're like diligent, like super focused on the mission thing, and like tie more into combat. There's Beast Soul Fury. It lets you use the highest of your wits or dexterity when determining your defense, and it imposes your shoot rating as a penalty on all dice pools to supernaturally influence your mind or emotions, and you also add it to your dice pools to detect or overcome illusions. And you can also spend a point of willpower to enter a state of monstrous fury, and you can essentially turn an ambush on the person who ambushed you. Your reactions become like that fast and instinctual. Yeah, a lot of good choices.
Hmm. I think maybe just for
Or
a
I hate to throw another wrench in
nah,
here.
go for it. Go for it.
If you really want to go down the like master of like the cult angle, another one that you can do would be the red chains of sacrifice. And whenever an attack or a hostile like power targets you, you can reflexively spend a point of willpower and redirect the threat onto another character within 5 yards of your location, even if you are unaware of the threat. So you can essentially, like, if an attack is coming at you, you can shunt it off to some poor sacrificial lamb. So, like, if someone's pointing, like, a gun or something at you, like, one of your cultists, like, might throw themselves, like, into the line of fire and they take the bullet instead. Something along those lines. So, another thing to consider.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with open up the way. Stepstone seems definitely tempting.
Open up the way is a solid one. I definitely.
But I do have a shadowing expertise on, so I think maybe if I didn't have that, I'd use that. But I think I don't have anything for like larceny or opening,
Yeah,
locks.
yeah.
So I think maybe that's my best utility one possibly.
Yeah, and avoiding traps and alarms
Yeah,
is also
exactly.
pretty handy in a game filled with trap-filled tombs and the like.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what I'll go with for my last one.
Cool. All right, so jumping back to Zavlos, if you got a chance to look over the rest of those, have something in mind, or
God's sight.
God's sight, yes, that is a good one.
I saw that and I was like, yes.
Yes, that is a favorite of mine, and I think that what gives you a bonus to your occult as well.
Occult.
So that'll make you even more knowledgeable. You see the will of the gods manifest in the world. Yeah. I think that's a very handy one and a solid choice. All right, so that is affinities out of the way. Those are kind of our subtle powers. We're now moving on to utterances. These are the big guns. These are the earth shakers. Some of them quite literally. You get some utterances to choose from. You get one for free. Every Arisen begins play with the Dreams of Dead Gods utterance. So that one is a freebie. You can all start with that one. But aside from that, you also get two to pick from. There's no real restriction on which ones you want to pick. They're not like broken down, by pillar like the affinities are. But something to keep in mind is each rank, each tier of an utterance has an associated pillar cost with it. So, for example, Awaken the Dead. Tier 1 has Ba 1. Tier 2 has Shoot 3. Tier 3 has Ren 5. You don't have to meet that prerequisite, but you need at least one dot in the pillar that it lists to use that power. So you'd need at least one dot of Ba, one dot of Shoot, and one dot of Ren to use all three tiers of that utterance. However, if you do meet those ratings, you will unlock additional optional effects for each tier that you meet. So it does kind of incentivize you to pick those and try and arrange your pillars accordingly. But chances are you probably won't be able to meet all the optional stuff right away. So it'll give you something to maybe invest some of your experiences in as we go through to unlock some of those higher tier optional effects of some of your utterances. So again, there's quite a few in the core book, and there's a couple in the book of Lasting Death as well. take some time to look through those utterances, and if you have some idea of what two you want to go for, let me know. Or if you need some help narrowing down which ones might fit your character well, feel free to let me know as well.
Yeah. I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna go with Blessed is the God King. I like magical girl transformation scenes, and that just screams that to me.
In a strange sense, yeah, I suppose you could call it that. But yes, I think it's definitely a solid one with the concept you've got going on with that that presence and that sort of like holier, like better than thou. You can quite literally be better than everyone else.
A form of a lion. And I saw it before. What was it? Scrolling through the book now. Weighing of the heart. Yeah. Which is people better not lie to me, otherwise I will rip your tongue out and find out it anyway what you were trying to lie to me about. Yeah.
Yeah, that that is a pretty grisly one. I think one of the tiers, like their tongue like rips out and becomes like a scorpion or something with like the lie like etched onto its carapace. Very very cool. Very very gross, but very cool. And I guess it kind of fits like the kind of the judge like aesthetic you've got going on, is like, you know, the fine distinctions and like weighing of the heart. You dig it. All right, so that's your two out of the way. Prez or Savlus, have you have any in mind, or still kind of fluctuating on the utterances? How are we doing? How are we coming along?
Oh.
Or looking for
Maybe Paulus knows it's Pharaoh.
As an architect, Tafabi, yes, that might be something very appropriate for you, and is just generally a fun one to use. I dig pretty much all the tiers of that one. I think if you wanted something in the same vein, there is another utterance that is more of kind of like a citywide version of that. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I'm blanking on the name.
Is it the Pavane of Eternity?
No, weaving the life web. There we go. That since you already kind of touched on the life web from your like guild affinity, that would kind of like further double down on that. It has some cool effects if you are interested in them. The first tier of weaving the life web sort of attunes you to the life of a town or a metropolitan area for the chapter. You gain a perfect understanding of its layout and its structures. You never suffer any dice penalties to traveling, tracking, chasing, or fleeing from mundane causes like traffic, crowds, tangled alleyways. If you meet the optional requirement, you also gain familiarity with any of the dominant languages and any like local customs for the area, and you get your socialize and streetwise actions as blessed actions, which is essentially a modifier to your dice pool. The second tier lets you like modify a landmark to like sort of like create a compulsion like upon a wide area, setting like an additional aspiration for like the populace to follow. So kind of, like declaring some sort of decree that you want like the local population to act upon, whether they're probably consciously not aware of it, but trying to, create the society that you want to see. Though you can certainly use it for nefarious ends, like declaring, burn the witches, for the aspiration. And the tier 3 is one of the cooler ones in my opinion. Lets you essentially summon an entire structure like into being. Like you can just conjure a temple like out of the earth, or craft some sort of work of architecture, and it just assembles itself out of the materials around you. Yeah, that's a fun one.
You know what might be fun is weaving the life web paired with the wait, what was it? Words of a Dead Dominion.
Words of Dead Dominion. Yes, the ghost related utterance. That's a fun one. I don't think we have much for necromancy yet, so that could certainly be an option if you want to have more ghostly interactions for this game. That would certainly be along those lines. Another fun one that you could do, be Waters of Life and Death. If you want to pull some Moses level shenanigans and turn water into blood and mess with the ocean itself, there's some fun things you can do with Waters of Life and Death. Or if you want,
Well, I kind of liked the dichotomy of that, the weaving the life web and the water of life and death.
Yeah, those are solid ones. If you, I guess some other options would be like rebuke the vizier, which is sort of like an anti-magic utterance. Like you can kind of like, you consider like other sorceries like inferior to yourself, and you can kind of like counter and suppress other creatures' magics, or negate them against yourself. Or if you want to go for like quite literally like a firebrand sort of like zealot, there are a few like fire-oriented powers, like Power of Ray, that like lets you like blind people with like a dazzling radiance and set people on like mystical golden fire. Or Revelations of Smoke and Flame. I think the tier 3 of it like literally turns you into like a giant like column of fire that you can just start, go do whatever a giant column of fire does, burn down the city, immolate your foes, that sort of thing. All of them fun options.
I think I got a little bit to think on here.
But while you're thinking about those, why don't we jump to Rez? What utterances have you are considering, or are you looking for some more inspiration, suggestions?
I have a few ideas. Some of the ones I looked at that kind of interest me are where is it? Wrathful Desert Power.
That's a fun one.
A little extra offense.
Yeah, conjuring a little bit of the desert against your foes. That's always a solid one. If you want Other like offensive options, Fury of Sekhmet is
Yeah, I looked at that one too.
is a solid offensive option, but I guess if you want a ranged attack, it's hard to go wrong with Wrathful Desert Power. If you want something that's more akin to your like espionage sort of stuff, you might want to consider where is it? Reflections upon a Broken Image.
Yeah, I looked at that too.
To let you like mimic like other people or even create like copies of yourselves. That's a cool one. If you want to go down like the assassin-y like sort of route that you're talking about, Relentless Horror is a solid pick of like the implacable assassin. A solid pick. Trying to think. I think it's now the utterances aren't necessarily tied to any specific guild, but some of them kind of resonate thematically. Makep is the amulet is their form of magical relic, and there is one utterance that kind of like fits in that niche, which is the rite of the sacred scarab.
Yeah, I looked at that too. That was I noticed the amulet aspect.
Yeah, and that one does have like both utility and offense. You got the first tier that like lets you create like the protective scarab amulet, the second tier that gives you like another backup body in your scarab, and of course you have the third tier, which you can pull a scene out of the Mummy and like regurgitate a horde of scarabs to devour your foes.
Jesus.
A lot of good ones to pick from. Yeah,
I know. Let's see.
It's hard.
I think I would like to do. Where is it? Fury of Sekhmet. Sure. That is my first utterance. And for the second one, I do have to remember there's a possibility I could learn some of these on the way too. So
yeah, and as you gain experience, you can certainly purchase more of these. You're not stuck, with these two.
I think I will do the scarab one, right? Right of the.
Right of the Sacred Scarab, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to go
I like
wrong.
The utility. Yeah. I like the utility aspect of it, especially at that first level. I mean, I am putting at least one point in to shoot the shoot pillar, so I think it makes sense.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So, the Rite of the Sacred Scarab, and what was the other one that you mentioned?
Fury of Sekhmet?
Fury of Sekhmet. Yes. Okay. So we got those two. Xavier, have you had a chance to decide, or still kind of fluctuating?
I think I might go with Palace knows it's Pharaoh.
Okay.
I was looking at maybe. Let's see here. Maybe. I don't really have anything defensive, so I was thinking maybe Rebuke the Visor.
Yeah, that is a solid one. And it does kind of like fit into your theme of like this like champion of the old faith, and like these petty lesser magics of other cultures can't compete with the true gods as they are to you.
I think I might do that so I have something defensive because I don't have much right now.
Yeah, that's fair. It is a very, very solid power. All right, so we've got those out of the way. That's kind of our big ones here. So we have a little bit more to touch on, but I won't spend too long on it because it's probably better something for you guys to do on your own time, as you kind of have a lot to look through. Next up would be covering your character's merits. So we won't probably skip over that for now.
Yeah.
And you guys can do that in the interim here. Look through all the merits in the book, and you get 10 of those. You also get 1 free dot in cult and 1 free dot in tune. So a grand total of 12, all considered. And aside from that, we also have some advantages to calculate, which you guys can do on your own time. Just a little bit of math, figuring out your defense, health, willpower, that sort of thing. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And lastly, we also have experience as a deathless immortal who's been thrown about from past to present to future, and everywhere in between. You've probably picked up a few things in the lifetimes that you've lived, even if you don't quite remember them all. Those experiences have left some sort of mark on you, something that you've learned in the meantime. Each of you get 10 points of experiences to spend on your character. Oh, and we lost press.
Lost. You there still, Charlie? Your camera's died.
All right. Well,
It sounds like his internet connection is suddenly dropped.
He's descended back into Dewat.
Bye, Charlie.
We will.
Shit.
Oh.
Hey, he's back
well.
from the dead. Yes.
God damn it! I think my network dropped.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Just go ahead and.
Yeah. We were doing experience. Yeah, we got 10 experience.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
My experiences as a mummy. Yeah, I think I already know what I want to spend mine on. More affinities, for me, anyway.
Sure. You've already got your stuff down. What are you interested in purchasing?
I am picking up Crown of the Wadget. The Arisen bears the mantle of regal grandeur. Her will is enacted with utter authority. She adds her ab to her socialized dice pools and to the permanent fidelity of her cult. When you interact with a model organization, bureaucracy, or administrative process in its official capacity, she may spend a point of willpower to ensure the interaction resolves swiftly in her favor, if possible. Yeah, so I am very good at interacting with the bureaucratic process. And not as flavorful as that, but I think I will pick up another affinity, Divine Countenance, which lets me reinforce my social attributes, spending pillar points the same way as with physical attributes. And for the last 2 points, I think I will pick up a point of ab, capping my ab at 5.
Nice.
I got 2 experience since it's my defining pillar.
Yeah, a full pillar there. Solid. So kind of wrapping everything up here, I'll give you guys. You can finish out merits and experience. In the interim here, give you guys more time to kind of look over everything, but kind of wrapping everything up here, painting a more complete picture. Now that we've gotten most of the stuff on our sheets here, we've got things established. The foundation has been built, but why don't we put a little capstone on that, and kind of sum everything up here. So, Grog, why don't you give us recap your character here? You give us your name, description, that sort of thing. Tell us more about your Arisen.
Yeah. So my character, is an enlightened judge. As for a name, I've settled on the name Sisset. It is a name of an old Egyptian god. It was a scribe god. It was, I think, subservient to Thoth. But yeah, I've gone with that as my name. Seeing as it's kind of hard, like there aren't really any modern Egyptian names to survive in our present time. Yeah. So yeah, name is Sisset. I'm thinking, I'm probably, I imagine they're like a, probably from like the body is like probably from like North Africa, kind of like probably like the original one, and yeah. What were the questions? I kind of like you said them all, and they went out my brain.
Oh, yeah, just sort of like your physical description, your name. You know, if your character like has a title for themselves.
Yeah, I don't.
General, personality, values, other kind of character traits that don't necessarily get covered under character creation, and then any lingering memories your character might have.
Yeah. Yeah, probably they're probably female, I imagine. Like if you like looked at them, they probably like appear maybe like in like their like late 20s maybe, but they're mummies, so it's kind of fucky wucky. Yeah. As for memories, I did it. I was the one that burnt down the Library of Alexander. I don't know why I did that.
Oh, okay.
My memory is like fuzzy enough that I don't recall why I ended up burning down the Library of Alexander. It was me. No idea why.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I think that happened like 40 BC or something. So the rough date. That's probably like what my last descent like revolved around. Yeah. That's about me there.
All right. Sounds good. We can work with that. Professor Zavlus, you guys, either of you want to chime in with summing up your character here?
Let me look up something here.
And yeah, same idea. Kind of name, physical kind of description. Any lingering memories they might have, if any.
Well, I just changed my name.
Oh.
Nezret. I looked it up. Oh, I just looked up. I guess there's multiple rules for things, but at some point people use Nezret to mean like fire or flame, the Egyptian.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I thought it'd be fun.
Fits with your judge there.
I wonder where I got the inspiration from. Let's see here. Maybe let's see here. They're very zealot of the old faith, but there's something driving them to seek the truth. Maybe there's maybe something like maybe something was missed, or figuring out why. Just kind of the exploration of that. Um, I imagine male. I'm gonna say early 30s.
Okay.
I think that'll be fun. Well, gosh, people age weird. We'll say early 30s by like modern standards, more or less.
Okay.
Because I don't know how they age back then. Um, I haven't thought too much about memories, but maybe something. Maybe it would be fitting if I had. Let's say I had a history with fire.
A history with. We have two histories with fire. Okay. The pieces are starting to come together. All right.
I might have a
Okay.
theme in my character.
Okay.
A little bit of rage, a little bit of fire.
What maybe like were you Nero at some point? Like maybe like he was actually like,
Oh,
like
God.
an inheritor of yours at some point and just set on fire.
Okay.
Oh,
All
you have the
right.
high expression to play the fiddle, don't you?
Oh no. All right. Lastly, Prez, why don't you sum up your
Alrighty.
character here, and we'll wrap things up.
Alright. My character's name is Thomas. He does have a title. He's known as the Ill Wind. What Ill Wind refers to is something that brings fortune to one person by specifically bringing misfortune to another. And I felt as though Thomas's role very much does that. Destroys other people in order to benefit the Empire, the Nameless Empire, or in this case, the judges of Duat. See, his concept is that of a pragmatic spy, so everything's practical, everything's considered. His face is usually covered by a white linen cloth, so most people don't see him, although if you do catch a glimpse, he looks like a Middle Eastern, mostly from the Mesopotamian region. Probably oldest might be his late 30s in appearance. Usually he's wearing, very loose-fitting clothes, just because that's normal given that region. As for memories, he does have memories of aiding, I'd say, governments and such as like I almost want to say like the Assyrian Empire or Babylonian Empire, just as kind of a secret police. Maybe
Okay.
just
Some sort of
watching
history
slaves.
there. Yeah.
And then maybe for one more memory, he does have. I'll have it more fleshed out, but I do think he has history with being close to somebody, like a brother or a friend or somebody like that, and in a past life, eventually having to do away with them.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of repeating history, but all he remember. I think right now all he remembers is he was close to somebody and something tried to happen to them.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I take that. All right. So that wraps up our little character creation here. I'll leave you guys to kind of put down the last little dots as you work through your merits and your additional starting experience. But that pretty much covers it, and we will pick up next week with session 1 of Oceans of Eternity, as you guys wake up and discover where and when you find yourselves, and struggling with what has happened and trying to reclaim your memories and perhaps for some of you leave your mark on the world. But nonetheless, how are you guys feeling? Everyone feeling good about their characters, ready for next week?
Yeah, I'm good.
Absolutely.
Can't wait for next week.
Yeah, same.
I'm excited to set things on fire.
Oh boy. Gonna have to.
That's not even your job.
It's a personal hobby. But yeah. Nonetheless, just to wrap things up, just want to say thank you to Onyx Path for having us on their channel here, and as well thanks to Tabletop Audio that they've provided background music for this. And thank you for you guys for being here and playing with me. If you guys have anything you want to shout out where the people can find you, feel free.
Yeah. I stream on Twitch sometimes. You can find me at Twitch TV Grog Monster. Yeah, that's me.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll pick up next week with session 1. See you guys later. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right.